We go from the United Nations to the New Yorker. Richard Avedon has been called America's most important photographer. He's had a long career that began in fashion and moved on to portraiture and reportage. In 1992, he was named staff photographer at the New Yorker, the magazine's first ever staff photographer. The November 6th issue of the magazine marks Avedon's return to fashion editorial work with a portfolio in memory of the late Mr. and Ms. Comfort. I'm pleased to have Richard Avedon back on this program. Welcome. Tell me about the creation of this. I mean, this is creating some talk. Your idea, Tina Brown, the editor's idea?
I had stopped doing fashion 10 years, editorial fashion 10 years ago, because I just felt I'm kind of a split. In those days, I felt that I had pockets of my work. Fashion was fashion, and then my serious work, and then my portraiture, and then reportage. And in actuality, it's all serious. And the fashion magazines, Vogue, didn't want the way in which I was thinking. I can't divide fashion from the way we live. We don't just have teenage girls leaning over pianos with their backsides up. You have, we all dress. We all want to dress well. We're good people. And I thought, why can't I merge everything I feel socially, what I feel about a little bit about the way we live, into a fashion story? But there was no magazine that was interested in it. But I thought after about 2 years of thinking about this that I would go to Tina and offer it to her. Tina, you know, is the editor of the New Yorker, Tina Brown, and I said, Tina, I'd like to try to invest, but as a matter of fact, I asked her up for breakfast, and I had Mr. Comfort dressed in a bathrobe sitting at the table, and I said, this is who I would like to pair with Nadja Auermann, the great German model, as the couple who are living in a world where they've sort of forgotten what everything means. It's a little post-apocalyptic. It's a little after the end of everything, and they're just going on. And she said, go, do it. I'll give you 12 pages. I brought in 26, and she looked at them and published them.
Now, what's the idea that's operative here? I mean, what is Richard Avedon saying, before we talk about the creation of the project, what does he want to say?
Well, Charlie, do you know that story about Robert Frost reading his poems, and it was over, someone in the audience said, Mr. Frost, what does that last poem mean? And he said, you want me to tell you what it means, but not as well. I mean, I'm a visual person, like a musician. I speak with images. So for me to tell you what I was doing, Rob's, you know, I'll take, do you have a minute?
Of course I do.
Okay, this fax, you know Francine Duplessis-Gray, she's a wonderful writer, and she sent this fax to Tina Brown this morning, and she faxed it to me. For it is in the deepest sense a fable, to be interpreted and filtered by each of us through the scrim of our own obsessions, fears, and lusts. This particular parable, to me, involves that dialectic of desire versus satiety, which is at the heart of unleashed capitalist ethic, desire for the general more, for the general other, for heightened selfhood, heightened control, all of which, of course, lead us to the terminal satiety-ridden expulsion from Eden. Wow. I thought I was just doing a nice couple living after the end of the world, enjoying things.
Okay, so but you said there, you thought you were doing a nice couple living after the end of the world.
Exactly.
So this is a fable of the late Mr. and Mrs. Comfort. Why this model?
Which one?
Nadja.
Nadja. She's one of the great, beginning to be one of the great actress models, which is different from being an actress in the films, because a model has to hold a moment and express many, many things in a held moment. An actress goes right on to the next line. So it's a very special quality, and she has this quality. She became Mrs. Comfort.
Is it possible that this will become a regular kind of thing you'll be doing for the magazine?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know.
All right, let's take a look, and then let's just talk about what we're seeing here. Come in on this one. This is the beginning of it, and you'll see here. This is the late Mr. and Mrs. Comfort. There is Nadja. Very stylized. Just tell me about the photograph.
Well, it's not so stylized. They live in this house. Things have, if you look at the back and you'll see it again, things have fallen apart. They have a strange memory of what things used to be like. And here, they're having their picture. They're taking their own picture. If you see, he's got the cable release. This is some broken camera. They remember that there was such a thing as pictures, but they want to be remembered. That the doll, their child, has a cracked head. He's a skeleton, but they're people, and they're good people, and they've dressed for their picture. This is how they would like us to remember them.
All right. Here is the next one. This is what?
Well, this comes much later, And this is the storm. This
Right.
is the crucial moment in the middle of the story where everything is gone. These are the things they believed in. There was faith. There was family. There was money. Look at that. There's $100 bills are flying around. The child is flying in the storm. Poor Mr. Cummins holding onto her skirt. That's all he's got left. The baby carriage. The camera that you saw in the first picture is blowing in the wind. And after the storm, when you get to the real story, you see how she begins to change in her character and in he changes in his desires for her.
All right, and this
life.
one?
There they are in the library. It's a library of burnt books. You can't quite see it, but the books are in a refrigerator. They've forgotten what refrigerators were for. They've forgotten what books were for. But maybe some grandparent once said, you know, books are wonderful things. There used to be things called books. And this is very meaningful in The New Yorker, which is a literary magazine. Yes. And they go in there when they're in a sort of nostalgic mood for they know not what. Yeah. And he's sort of dreaming and she's a little bit lost, but they feel comfortable in the burnt library. And down here, if you can read in Russian, it's an issue of Pravda that says Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm. Where were these shot?
I sent scouts out all over America to Death Valley. I wanted a place where these people would be after the world was over, as they knew it, and up to Mount St. Helena, and into the burnt places, forests in the west. And I found this place 10 minutes from my house in Montauk. It was a burnt, forgotten theater.
Okay, now this one.
That's just Sunday at the television set. They're just in the rusty couch and they're just enjoying themselves.
Yeah. How long was this in production?
I thought about it for about 2 years, took 2 months to really prepare it in 7 days.
Yeah. And how is it different from anything you have done?
The content. The fact that the fashion is part of a thinking world, and also it's about people. It isn't just about models.
Yeah. And what did Dune Arbus and Polly Mellon do?
Oh, wonderful. Polly Mellon is the world's greatest fashion editor.
Yeah.
And her discipline was she couldn't show a beautiful dress that didn't apply to the story.
Right.
You had to, if you saw her in the library, she had to be wearing what she would wear in the library. So it wasn't just a fashion show. It was really like costuming a film. And Dune Arbus has worked with me forever. We did Chanel commercials and Calvin Klein Obsession commercials. She's the woman who wrote Nothing Comes Between Me and My Calvins. And we work
You've been working since 1971.
Yes, with her on all kinds of projects. She's a writer.
But there are all kinds of credits when you look at these photographs. I mean, you have list all kinds of credits in terms of the photographs themselves.
Well, it was really like doing a movie. Normally I go into my studio with 2 or 3 assistants, technical assistants. This was set designers. We had to, well, you can't go back to them, but if the storm is exactly the same camera angle as the portrait of the family, but everything's blowing. The flag is blowing. Every one of those what appeared to be flying things was strung and hung and worked by the art squad.
Will you do more of this now?
I don't know. I have to.
I have to see the reaction.
I'm having lunch with Tina Brown tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll
to find out what the reaction has been
yes,
to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And well, what's the early response, and what are people saying to you?
Well, I guess I've had
other than what
more good and high level congratulations on this. It seems very good.
Have you changed much in terms of the technique that you bring to photography, in terms of how you work?
I find that I always think that the photograph is in my head long before I take it, and whatever technique I need, I use. Mm-hmm. I'm good technically, and I have wonderful technical assistants, but I haven't done a location. I've worked mostly in the studio. Mm-hmm. As complex as this, almost ever, but it was like that. We got together and you look and you see what you need. And also, what's really so interesting, Charlie, this place, the ceiling of this place was all broken open, panes of glass, so sun would come in. By the time I'd be ready to take the picture, the sun would be over there, so I had to simulate the kind of sun I like. And the hurricane was coming. Yeah. Fortunately, it didn't arrive. I wanted a fire. The fire went out on Long Island. Do you remember? It came towards Montauk. So there were all these possibilities. I had to be covered. So I lit it like a movie set.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. This is in the November 6, 1995 issue of The New Yorker, a whole series of photographs by Richard Avedon in memory of the late Muslim is Comfort, a Fable by Richard Avedon. Take a look in The New Yorker. That is now on your newsstand. We'll be right back. Stay with us.